The Frost team is the best team you can use in DragonSword Awakening right now, and it's not even close. We're talking millions of damage in seconds, Tower of Trials easily cleared, and level 90 raids done in 2 to 3 minutes. But most players running this team are leaving more than half their damage on the table, because the build is only half of it. The character to start fights with, and the skill order and timing, get any of those wrong and you're not getting anywhere near those numbers. This guide is gonna cover everything, the best build for this team, and the exact rotation that makes this team completely broken. So even if you've never played any of those heroes, by the end of this video you know exactly how to run the best team in the game. So for this team you're gonna need Cerese, Othello and Dana, because those are the only 3 Frost characters. And right now the teams who specialize in stacking one element are meta against the endgame bosses. And this team is all about fast skill rotation and tag combos, because every skill that these characters have, they stack Frost, and that's exactly what we need. For example, this boss, Ursula, the level 90, she's very annoying to fight because she keeps dodging from one side to another, but if you manage to stack Frost very fast on her, it's gonna keep her in one place so you can spam the shit out of your skills and kill her very fast. And that's done without any ranged characters. All of those characters are basically close to medium range. However, it's not gonna work if you just spam everything you see on your screen. When I first started using this team, I had the perfect builds, the best stats, and still it was still taking me 7 minutes to clear Ursula. But now with the right skill rotations and with the right understanding, I can do it in 2 to 3 minutes. But before we get to that, you need to understand how each character works, because there's unique tips and tricks that's going to make a massive difference on how you use them. And if you want more guides like this, make sure to drop a like. And we're going to start with Dana, because that's the character you're always gonna start your fights with. And that's all because of this guy, Chaco. So Dana's gameplay is basically all centered above this summon. His name is Chaco, and the way it works is that both her Q and her E can summon Chaco, but you always want to summon him with your Q, because the Q deals damage and the E is just... The E is basically summoning him, but just on a defensive state. And Chaco is OP because he's gonna basically distract the boss. So if you have this guy on the field and there's Ursula is not gonna target you. He's gonna target this guy. And Chaco is also excellent at stacking Frost. Among all those 3 characters, he's the best one to stack Frost. So I'm gonna explain the skills a bit more. So as I said, the Q is summoning, E is summoning as well. The Q is gonna summon, he's gonna jump from the sky and do damage and then start attacking. But another thing you need to understand is the bar above the Chaco's head. So this blue bar here is basically going down as time passes, and when it reaches 0, it's gonna disappear. And this bar gets filled by whenever you use Q and E, is gonna fill up the bar. But here's the thing: if you go to our Awaken and you go to the 3rd Awakening bonus, you're gonna see that the Summon Chaco, which is our Q, so here, Summon Chaco, it gives, whenever you're gonna use it, you're gonna have full rhyme energy. And the rhyme energy, by the way, is the blue bar above Chaco's head. That's what it's called. And that's why whenever his blue bar is getting low, you want to use her Q, because whenever you're gonna use your Q, full bar again, which means more time on the field and more damage and more Frost build-up. As for the basic attacks, we don't really care. I mean, you're not gonna use them anyway. You're gonna use them much. The only thing that's gonna be kind of useful here's a slide attack, because her slide attack is not an attack, it's more like a slide. So this is great for movement, but most importantly is her signal skill, so the F and the G. So you'll always get the F, because the requirement for the F is to have rhyme energy, so blue bar. So you're always gonna get it. And this skill right here is excellent at building Frost. I think it's one of the best skills at building Frost. It builds up Frost so fast. I'm gonna put a video. That's why you always wanna use your Q just to do damage. And then whenever you can, as soon as you see the F appear, you're gonna click her F. And for her G, the condition for this is a bit different. You need rhyme energy, so you're always gonna have a rhyme energy anyway. But the second condition as well is for the target to be in Frost or knockdown. So you're gonna use your Q and her F to build Frost, and one the target is in frost, you can use her G. Think of her G as more for her damage, and her F is like damage and at the same time great amount of frost built up. And another reason why her F is very OP, not only does it build frost, but it also shreds super armor. If you go into Awaken 1, you see that's the Chaco Knuckles, or it's her F here. So what this bonus does is that if the target is frozen, it's gonna shred the super armor even more. And now I'm gonna talk about a tip that most players miss on, is to relocate Chaco. So you're not always gonna have your Q available, right? Because when you use it, it's gonna go into cooldown. But sometimes the boss is gonna move around. So the move speed of Chaco is around that speed, right? It's like a walking, running speed. It's not like super fast. So if one boss is here and he jumps all the way over there to this guy there, it's gonna take a while for Chaco to reach him, and by the time he reaches the target, well, guess what? His rhyme energy, the blue HP bar above his, is gonna reduce. So in the end, he's gonna deal less damage. So what you can do to relocate Chaco is to use your E. Because whenever you use your E, he's gonna spawn on you. So you're gonna use your slide. You're gonna use your slide, right? Get close to the boss and E. And now he's in defensive state. We don't really care about that shield or the defense bonus it gives. We're not using the E for that. We're using the E for the relocation. And then right after it's relocated, you're either gonna have your F or your G available or your Q. So if you have your Q available again, obviously you're gonna use it just for the smash boom. I'm gonna go more into details in the exact rotation within the team. But right now I'm just explaining the basic skills so you get a basic understanding of everything. So now you know that Dana is excellent at stacking frosts and distracting the boss. Now I'm gonna go over Cerese. So for Cerese, you always want to use her E before her Q. Because her E is pretty much instant, right? Boom, E, that's done, right? But if you use her Q first, well, you're in place, you can't do shit. So like you would have to wait, then do your E. And as you just saw, her Q is basically, she generates a tornado, and the tornado deals damage and frost. And by the way, if you want to cancel her Q, when you're doing this, you can just press jump. She's gonna jump. Then the tornado is gonna keep going for a bit and then disappear. However, you should avoid doing that because it's less accurate, and also your Q is not gonna last as long as if you just press Q. Next, we're gonna go over her F. So this is the star of her whole kit. This one is the one that deals the most damage. So you wanna spam those as often as you can. So whenever the target is gonna be in frost, you want to use those as often as you can. Here it says 1435% damage, right? I mean, that's high, but it's not crazy high compared to her Q. But the thing is, it doesn't tell you that it's a barrage of frost magic spells, so there's many of them, and it's also very fast. So this skill right here has the highest DPS. Then you have her G. So what does her G do? The G it just basically explodes the frozen spike. So if you go in the skill description, it says destroys all ice blocks, and basically ice blocks is the one left by your E. So you're just gonna explode them and deal a bit of damage. And when the target is frozen, it's also going to appear because the target basically become frozen. So it's basically become an ice block, technically. But this one is not that crazy. You really need to prioritize the F. Your F is your priority. I'm gonna show you how the G works now. You just E. And now her G instantly appears, right? And then it explodes and does some damage. Another reason why her F is so strong, this one, Frozen Needles. If you go into her Awaken bonus, you can see that the Frozen Needles increase the frost status. So Frozen Needles, they appear when the target gets frost, right? But they're also gonna increase the stack of frost. Because remember, frost, every status in the game can have more than one stack. So you can get 2 stacks. So you can get 2 stacks or even more. And why is that good? Well, some skills get new upgraded versions when there's 2 stacks or more. For example, the one we just went over with Dana, her F. When the target has 2 frost stacks or more, then you get the powerful strike version. So it's gonna be another version of her F. and it's just gonna be a fast smash that deals a lot of damage. And this bonus also makes her F inflict some knockdown. So Frost is the main focus of this team, but since Othello also, I'll show you, since Othello also some knockdown, that's why Cerese works very well with Othello. All the other awakening skills is just some stats increase or damage boost, but the last one, I'm gonna explain you the last one. So basically, her slide attack, just like Dana, she slides on ice, right? So before, that's a normal E. Boom, he goes on a line, but the line disappears and then he leaves the one block, and then the block, you can explode it. But now I'm gonna do the slide frost first, and then do my E on the slide frost. You see that this time, the line didn't disappear, right? And you can explode everything. So by itself, it's not that crazy, just more AoE, more damage, a bit more. It's not that crazy, right? But wait until you see this. The reason you want to use this is if you go to her master skills, you can see that it enhances the frozen road. Frozen road is the sliding on the ice. And if you hit the enemy with the frozen road, they're additionally afflicted with the frost status effect. That's why you always want to hit the enemy, if you can, with the frost, because it's gonna increase overall all the frost build-up on that enemy. And this frost slide also slows down the enemies. So not only you're gonna increase the frost build-up on the enemies by using this, but it's also gonna slow them down. And it's also gonna build frost. So it's like 3 bonus in 1. So the way this guy works is very simple. I thought it was complicated at first, but it's actually very simple. His concept basically is that every skill he has is gonna first ice spears on the enemies. You see here, ice spears, ice spears. And the difference between his E and Q is that his E is gonna put the ice spears around the enemy and then throw one big ice spear in the middle, right? But his Q, if you use your Q, he's gonna do some attacks. And each of these attacks is planting spears into the enemy. And these ice spears, basically what they do is that they slow down the enemy. And even his F is also another ice spear skill. It's gonna jump on the enemy. So if you've played Roxy, it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same as this. It basically jumps on the enemy, puts the spears on him. But basically you use this to deal frost and deal damage. And then his G basically explodes all the ice spears. And you can use both his F and G whenever the target is frozen. I'm gonna give you an example in the Tower of Trials. Hopefully they don't die too fast. So E, boom, tower, right? Q, you plant ice spears onto an enemy, right? You see the ice spears there? Then his G is gonna explode the ice spears, all of them, even the ones on the ground. Now I'm gonna try to frost an enemy so you can see his F. Now that's his F. He grabs the enemy, do stab, and the guy I stabbed, he has a nice spear planted on him as well. So that's how you know that the F also plants ice spears. And I'm gonna use my G, and it's gonna explode all the ice spears. And the logical way you would go about this is to think, alright, that means to get the most damage I would have to plant the maximum ice spears that I can and then use the G to explode them all, right? But actually in this team you don't want to do that. So instead what you want to do is use his G whenever you can. Because in the normal gameplay you're gonna use your Q, you're gonna use E, then Q, and then switch to someone else, right? And then when you switch back to Othello, it's gonna directly do the G directly, right? Right here you can see it. And then it explodes. So it's just a bonus. You don't have to actively think every time, oh yeah, I have these ice spears planted on, I have to stack this and then explode them. Nah, you don't really have to do that. It's pretty natural in the way you play him. And by the way, if it's been useful so far, drop a like and sub because I got more guides coming. And also let me know in the comments, what team are you currently running? But now I'm gonna explain one more thing, is that Othello and Cerese have a hidden synergy. Already noticed, but both Cerese and Othello have exploding G, right? And the thing is that both Cerese and Othello can activate each other's ice blocks or ice walls. Cerese can explode Othello's ice spears, and Othello can explode Cerese's ice wall. So if I plant some ice spears right now, boom, you see that Cerese has attack combo. I switch to her, he's gonna explode the spears. So now I'm gonna use my E on Cerese, and now I switch to Othello, and he exploded, as you can see, exploded the Cerese E. And now here's the thing, does that mean that you always need to use Cerese to explode Othello's ice spears? Well, actually no. Most of the time you want to explode Othello's ice spears with Othello. I explode and then I switch. The reason for that is that sometimes she's gonna have her frozen needles, right? And you want to have that as a tag combo. You don't want to have the ice spear explode as a tag combo. And the difference between the exploding her G, the exploding, and her F as a tag combo is that if you switch to Cerese to explode the spear, she's not gonna go into iframe. That means she can still take damage. An iframe basically means you're invincible during the animation. So the only thing you have to think about is that if the target is frozen and you're on Othello, first you have to explode the spears before switching to Cerese. That way you're gonna get the F tag combo, the ice needles tag combo, and not the explode tag combo. As for the build and gear I'm using, this is pretty straightforward, especially if you've watched my base build video. So for the karma, exclusive karma, max ascended for each character, their own exclusive karma. The gear, as you probably know, is 3-piece Earth Shardder with a 2-piece Frost Storm on every one of them. For the main stats on all characters and every piece of gear, I'm running attack power up. The substats are all the same across all characters and all piece of gears. For the runes, this is one I'm running on Cerese. 3 crit damage, 2 crit rate. On Othello, 2 crit rate, 2 attack, 1 crit damage. On Dana, 3 crit damage, 2 crit rate. But do not blindly copy my runes. What you should do instead is adapt and focus on getting at least 100% crit rates. And if I removed 1 crit rate rune, then I would get under 100 crit rate. Because depending on what titles you have unlocked, because remember that the titles here, they give stat bonuses. So depending on what you have unlocked, you might want to run 1 more crit rate or even 2 more crit rate runes to get you 100%. This is my stats for Cerese, this is my stats for Othello, and those are my stats for Dana. Okay, now about the combat strategy, the skill rotation, the skill order. We're gonna go over a recording of a gameplay. That way it's gonna be much easier for you to understand. Also, I'm gonna play this at 6-7 speed, otherwise it's gonna be too fast to explain at the same time. You're gonna see I'm gonna start with my Chaco. Boom, I summoned him. Right after he lands, I switch to Cerese. So first is Dana, then Cerese. Cerese is always going to spawn in the air, so you have to wait until she hits the ground. And then I did my slide frost and I hit her. As I explained, the slide frost, when you hit her, is gonna increase the amount of frost you stack on her. And right after I hit her, I'm gonna use her E. Look at the bottom right. I just use her E. E, a quick dodge just in case, and then I Q. I used the Cerese Q. Here unlucky because Ursula dodged to the right, but shit happens. Things are not always gonna be the same. But then you see, right after Cerese Q, I switch to Othello. So Dana, Cerese, Othello. Othello, same thing. He's gonna spawn in the air. So I have to wait for him to go on the ground. Usually you would use your E first and then you Q, as I said. But in this recording, I use my Q first. And right after I use my Q, I switch to Dana again. Because look at where Chaco is. Chaco is all the way there. I don't know what he's doing, but Ursula is here. So I have to relocate Chaco. That's why I switch to Dana. Relocate Chaco with her E. Look at the bottom right. I just use her E. Gonna replay this. I use her E to relocate. Now he's right in front of the boss, right? And the Chaco knuckle is ready. So I'm gonna start punching like crazy with Chaco. And look at the frost meter. Look at how fast it's going. Just from the Chaco's F. That's why the Chaco's F is one of the best to stack frost. Right now the target is frozen, and guess what we do? We switch to Cerese to use her F. I'm gonna do it. As soon as I click her F, you don't see the animation. That's because as soon as I clicked it, I switched to Othello, because we're minimizing the time we spend on each character. And then I use whatever he has available. In this case, I use his Q. Now I use Dana again to do more damage because he has his knuckle ready. And at this point is dead. But in this example, the boss died pretty fast. So I'm gonna show you one more example. So we're gonna go through another example, but this time here I made a Dana mistake that is very interesting for you to learn. So we're gonna watch it. So first, as usual, Chaco spawn, Cerese, E. I didn't do the slide frost in this case because I didn't have her master skill unlocked. That's why I didn't even do the slide frost. I just did her E and then her Q. E, Q, Othello. I mean, we can't see shit because it's so hard to see, but I'm gonna slow it down again. But this time on Othello, I did the E first, and then his Q. E, and then we can't see shit, but Q. Now I switch to Dana, and look at the mistake I make. Chaco is all the way over there. And look at what I do. I click Chaco's F. And now Chaco is punching the air. Bruh. It's doing nothing. So Chaco is all the way over there. I click Chaco's F. I didn't relocate Chaco with her E. This is a mistake. And now I just wasted a bunch of frost. And look at the frost meter. She was almost gonna get frost, but just because I didn't relocate Chaco, she didn't get frost. And this is gonna throw all the momentum of the fight. Because now I use my cooldowns, and since Ursula is not frost, that means a lot of my tag combos are not gonna be available. Okay, I made a mistake here. Cerese, no cooldown available. I can't do shit. I switch to Othello, no cooldown available because she's not frozen. I can't do shit. Just because she's not frozen, now she starts dodging around. So now it's getting annoying, as you can see. Getting a status effect is crucial. That's why it's very important to inflict the status effect on the boss, especially on this boss. Okay, now another example. This is gonna explain more on what happens after you stack frost and tag combos appears. So here I E, Othello, Q. Same thing as usual, I'm just gonna let it play. We're gonna wait till the target gets frozen. Now the target is frozen. Now look at this. So I'm on Dana, right? And there's 2 tag combos ready. So I could have clicked one of those, but I don't do that. And look at why. First of all, the target's already frozen. Second, it's just explode skills. It's the explode tag signal skill, so it's not that crazy. I had F and G ready, and the target is already at 1 stack of frost, almost getting at 2 stack. Now the target is at 2 stack, and I use the improved version of the Chaco Knuckle. So that happens when there's 2 stacks. And since none of those stack combos interested me, that's why I didn't do them, and I went for this one first. Now I can start switching. I didn't switch to Cerese because as I said, if I switch to Cerese, he doesn't get the iframe with the explode signal skill. So I switch to Othello. Now I get more frost, and now Cerese F is ready. I pressed Cerese F, 2 tag combos in succession here. Look, like there's 1 and 2 ready. The frozen spikes, the best one, so I'm gonna use this one. And instead of doing 1, then I wait, and then 2, I click 1, 2 directly, fast, very fast. 1, 2. So Dana Q, Cerese EQ, Othello EQ. Then from there, depending on how much frost you have, you can get on Dana again to stack more frost. So locate Chaco with E, then Q with Chaco spawn and damage to deal even more frost, and then use Chaco's F or G to stack even more frost. And then when the target is frozen, now you have the signal skills ready, and depending on what's available, you can do tag combos very fast. As you can see, it's gonna be what I just explained. Now we're gonna go over phase 4 of Ursula. This time, you see, I started on Dana, but Dana from the previous phase, she didn't have her Q and her E ready. That's why I switched to another character. I went to Cerese directly. So I used whatever Cerese had ready, and then I used Othello again. And now tag combo is ready for Dana, so the Chaco is ready, spawning him. Now I'm gonna repeat the same skill rotation as before. Cerese, EQ. Also, you have to understand that Ursula is not always gonna be the same, because it can be kind of be random, because this last phase, this boss, sometimes it jumps to one side to another, so it's not always gonna be the same. But you cannot get the gist by now. As you can see, I stack frosts with Chaco, then I rotate to Cerese and Othello to deal both damage and frost. And then, because we stacked frost, enemy is frozen, and we can use tag combos to deal damage without the enemy jumping around. Okay, so that is it for the ice team. If you enjoyed the guide, don't forget to sub. Also, new raids, new bosses, new content coming soon, so follow me on Twitch if you want to stay up to date. And until then, peace.